Let me get back on track though. So, we're talking about 2000 now. So, I become very active. About 2000, I got into the stained glass deal, a part of the interior fix up basically. I did a lot of improvements to what was already good, but upstairs was already very livable. So I only made it nicer. Down here, the basement is complete rework, and this has been a very good thing. And the garage is a complete rework too, and the landscape is complete rework. So I was very busy. I put a new roof. I actually, while I was working, put a new roof on, a new sidewalk, put a new curb in, new driveway. Became unemployed. 2000, got into stained glass. Actually thought that might be a business. And I had an opportunity to, with a web guy, to set up my website for virtually nothing. So, but that didn't materialize as a business, but it certainly was fulfilling as a hobby, and I certainly filled every niche here in Log Haven with a window. But the big project was in 2003. I did a major landscaping. The owner, previous owner, I bought the home from the original owner, and he was the general contractor. But and he made very good decisions by and large. But he made some bad ones, and one was doing the landscaping with used railroad ties, for they were all rotting away, and there was a structural problem with the rear deck continually settling. So, long story short, and I had a problem with the DEP. Oh, this is goes forever. Got a lot of pictures of the project. It was very enjoyable. I ended up finding a very good contractor. He worked with me. I was actually part of the crew. I basically told him what I wanted done, and I let him make the decisions on how to do it. And we had a very good relationship. But having said that, that was all done. So, but let's get back to my topic. And basically, after the landscaping project, and there was a lot of landscaping to do after that, but after that, things were by and large done. Basically, there's not much more to be done here. And I was always active, so I was getting a little antsy on, well, what am I going to do next? But at the time, let me go back to 60s. Probably through the whole 60s, I've probably consumed maybe 3 or 4 ounces of marijuana at the most. I never had a steady supply. I was really naive in high school. I wasn't exposed until I was a junior in college. There's really some good experiences with it. I really went very deep, not deep into marijuana. I mean, I didn't have a steady access. If I would have gone a lot deeper. But I was also interested in LSD, and it was a very long time before I ever found a source to have. And then I've had some very meaningful experiences with LSD, but probably no more than 20 or 30. And those are very much in the past, and I basically got out of drugs completely. But in 2003, I came upon a steady, reliable, honest source that I could trust for marijuana. So I started to become a regular, user. And I've become a little concerned about this. I remember my first big buy was 6 ounces. And I says, God, and I'm sort of like my father. My father was very afraid of becoming an alcoholic because he lived that lifestyle, and he knows a lot of alcoholics in his life, and it's so easy to slide down that slippery slope. So in the beginning, I sort of had a guilt complex, and I would actually stop smoking it for a while, and I would smoke it maybe 2 or 3 times a week and enjoy it very much. But why am I going into this? Well, this is really, and I don't want to attribute it to this, but I would say, your consciousness is really affected by the drug. There's no denying it. And I think I have to give it some credit for The reason I'm taking my path, not that everyone is predisposed, because I think there's a predisposition to everything. But anyway, getting back to the point here, so now I was smoking and enjoying it. I mean, I was enjoying, music and food and all this stuff, but, I sort of had the mindset, well, you just don't want to sit back and groove out, because I guess that's the thing about marijuana, you can just smoke your life away. So anyway, I felt it was necessary to become active, and my mind was active. So actually, I was already accessing the local libraries, but it was mostly entertainment videos that they had, that were of interest. But now I started to get interested in science. Not that I wasn't interested. I was interested in science all through my life. I think that would have been a good choice, a career choice in retrospect. But anyway, I hadn't really ever had physics, or I hadn't really had much advanced mathematics, and I did try, but I never really felt that I understood relativity and quantum physics was just a name to me that I couldn't give you maybe two sentences about. So the first thing that got me interested in is in the libraries. I started going to there's a lot on tape and CDs that are just the word, and a lot of books on tape. So started getting interested in the life of Richard Feynman. Yeah, and if you remember, there was a Nova program about Richard Feynman's life. He died in the 80s. He was the guy that led the science group on to looking at the seals on the shuttle for why the Challenger exploded. He has an absolutely interesting life, always driven by science. He has some over histories, what do they call it, the renormalization. He's got a lot of heavy thing, and he has a whole series of lectures too. He was at Cal Tech, and he actually went back and started to teach Physics 101 to his students, and they have a lot of that recorded. So I listened to it really got heavily involved, much over my head that I could understand, but that basically started me. I found the teaching company as a great source for topics that would interest me. There were, of course, many other sources, and I was very interested in relativity, and I think it was probably the teaching company at first. The quantum, was it and the quantum, relativity and the quantum revolution, Wolfson. Yeah, that was an excellent series. I've listened to that and watched that more than once. And then there's Schumacher on quantum physics. Oh, they have a number of good on quantum physics. They have good things on Buddhism too. So anyway, there's a number of sources. So anyway, I really started to get heavily involved into understanding relativity. And there was this whole series too I mentioned. It's called The Mechanical Universe. It was a series of half-hour courses meant for college-level students on topics of physics, and their graphics was excellent. So it really helped me. Like, for instance, I never really understood, or it wasn't intuitively obvious, what energy was and what the conservation of energy means. But these theory, it really, and I recorded all this. I have a vast library of the courses that I found the most influential, plus I have a vast library of entertaining stuff, plus I have a library of political stuff that got me upset. But getting back on course here, I really got heavily, and I must give credit to not only to the teaching company, but Brian Greene. His and it's been more recently not commercialized, but made more public on the PBS Nova series about the fabric of the cosmos. But his book was on tape. It was 16 hours. And I had to listen to that thing about 2 or 3 times before I really felt that I could understand most of what he was talking about. That really went into detail. And I think the point at which I was really impacted was when I came to when he started talking about the river of time, and when he started talking about the present being no different than the past or future in terms of physics. I could deal with physics going backwards, although I have a hard time understanding how you could take, let's say, a ceramic dish and make it go backwards just perfectly so it would reconnect. But forget that. So, I thought it was just his supposition that that the past, present, and future are really a function of human consciousness, or can't be interpreted without human consciousness. So, but I finally understood what is termed the relativity of simultaneity. And when I understood that, that shook me to my core. Yeah. I could not deal with. I was starting to understand that the reality isn't totally out there; it's in here. But that's not green. It just looks green to me. The idea of a timeless kind of space-time. I felt, and in retrospect, I went off in totally the wrong direction. Yeah, because I started to, the important question to me then was, okay, let me accept that, that I'm here, and I'm here, and I'm here, all, quote, at the same time. Okay, let me accept that. Okay. My mind says, I'm only here. Okay. So my question was, why is the now now? Why am I experiencing this moment here, right now? Why am I not experiencing this moment? Or this moment? And I went off trying to answer that question. And, whenever I went in to get it, I always ended up, it was like, who's on first? I would always end up with, you have to understand human consciousness. So and in retrospect too, I mean, this is a much longer story than I'm telling you here. In retrospect, that was completely the wrong question. And I'll tell you why. Because if you have, like, all of space-time, you have to take yourself out of it. So I'm out of space-time now, okay? And now I'm looking at space-time, everything, past, present, future. And, this guy in there, who happens to be me, is saying, well, why is the now now? Why? Well, first of all, you're connoting that there's some kind of, a global time outside of your time, that's, even bigger, which, is a fallacious concept. But the thing is, you're asking, because you're asking the question at this time. I mean, it's just like a ruler. So, if you're at 6 inches and you say, well, why am I at 6 inches? Well, you're at 6 inches because, you're at 6 inches because you're at 6 inches. That's why. So it's a meaningless question. Right. But in the asking of that question and coming up with the answer, it gave me insight to this, that, there really is a timeless kind of world. A good analogy would be you look at a book. I mean, you look at a book, you just don't know the book by looking at it. I mean, the reality is that, you have to take it in linear, by reading it. Letter by letter, word by word, phrase by phrase, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, chapter by chapter. But when you're done, it's all there. You don't have to read it again. It's just all there. But anyway, so then I get into quantum physics. And, I don't even know if I want to go there. But again, quantum physics brings in, a damn consciousness again, and the measurement problem, and the implication of the uncertainty principle, and the Copenhagen interpretation of the uncertainty principle, and the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky thing with Niels Bohr, but basically, and the deal with hidden variables and Bell's mathematical discovery that there aren't any hidden variables, that the electron really doesn't have, a reality without being observed, that it's not a little planet going around the sun. It's in electron cloud. It's somewhere in here. It's probably more probably here than here. But anyway, so I go through those two sciences, and wow, under the influence of marijuana, this is really heavy stuff. And I want more. But concurrent with this, and sort of as a conclusion built on top of this, was the understanding of maybe some of the major religions. So I've always watched programs about the history of Christianity, and more recently about Islam history, and I might say too, mathematics is another big area. And if there's one book on tape I would recommend, it's I don't know the exact quote of it. I don't remember the Stife. I think it's his last name somehow, but it's about the history of zero. It's amazing history. He basically follows the concept of zero, and it's a close cousin, infinity. Tremendously interesting, and I might say too, the history of number is an excellent teaching company course, and a lot of my subject matter, what I'm going to talk about, comes from them. It's all created by us, our little world. But, okay, so anyway, I started to, and I would say someone I found very influential, and he was more of a generalist, and that was not David Campbell. I'm missing his first name now. Anyway, Joseph Campbell. Yeah. So he did a number of things with the public television, with mythology, and then he did all this work with. I was going to say Luke Skywalker with, what's his face at Skywalker Ranch. Yes, but anyway, and he died back in '85, so it goes back. But he was very good, but he got me interested in, Eastern religions, specifically Buddhism, more often than the Chinese based, and somewhat in Hinduism, a lot of mythology there. So anyway, I wanted to understand that. The mythology is, and the difficulty of cultural transference of information made just the fundamental understanding of concepts difficult to really understand. And anytime it came into a lecture, I found, the Dalai Lama, I found him, very intelligent. Interesting history, a lot to say, but does not have the command of the English language that can communicate the subtleties of what he's trying to say. And I think he realizes this too. And he has this very good translator that he came up with. And so even if he talks in English, quite often the translator will translate in much more precise, which are very understandable. And I found it funny, though, that the translator started to do talks on his own, too. But one thing I might say is the books, though. The Dalai Lama must have excellent ghostwriters, because the one book that I would recommend to anyone that is having a difficulty time understanding the basic concepts of Buddhism is, what's the exact title? Understand Yourself as You Really Are, by the Dalai Lama. And there's peripheral information in there too about, going into meditation and exercises. Just go right to, I think it's about chapter 5. If you understand, see if I get the right term, what is the derived, that's not going to come to me. It'll come to me later, and I'll mention it. Anyway, just read the book. So, anyway. Yeah, and and I think it's the concept of no self that really put it all together for me. I mean, it really blew me away. And I could really go heavily into Buddhism, but really, I think it was really just sucked in by the whole concept. And I totally embrace it. And it's one thing to understand, Buddhism, like you might, quote, understand, the beliefs of Muslims. But it's another thing to believe it and to live by it. So it's been, I would attribute it to the top of the pyramid here, everything under it being THC, relativity, quantum physics, mathematics, and then I think Buddhism is right there on top. And that helped, I think, me unify my feelings. And to me, its strongest point is the concept of no self. And when I embraced that, I never did buy into reincarnation. Oh, okay, I have a different idea. I have an idea of an incarnation, that we are all an incarnation of a unity, an original source. But we're not recycled. Our entity in one incarnation that doesn't have an impact on subsequent incarnations. Other than through genetics, let's say. But it's I think a moot point. I think they need reincarnation for the the carrot and the stick. That is, if you're living a miserable life, if you know that you are a good person, that in your next life you will be in a better position to realize the benefits of being a good person. But other than that, the only other thing, I didn't really have trouble with this in the beginning, was reincarnation. Not reincarnation. Compassion. Yeah, and it's the Theravada Buddhism, in my understanding, is really understanding the self. And the Mahayana Buddhism, to me, is really compassion for others. the Tantric Buddhism, I've never been able to get a good idea of what Tantric is, other than what my guru calls, they call it Buddhism. Mahayana on steroids. Yeah, it's like ultra compassion, like to the extent of becoming a bodhisattva. And bodhisattva is, see, you don't want to be reincarnated. You want to end this samsara, this endless cycle of death and rebirth. I mean, even though you might be a good person and you're getting better and better and better and better, you want to end the cycle. You want to be in this timeless state of nirvana. So you enter that state by, after your death, coming to realize that you are, in fact, a number of particles. You're a warehouse of thoughts, and your mind, contains those thoughts. But if you were to remove them one by one, you would end up with an empty warehouse that is built of matter that is impermanent. And so there is where you reach nirvana. But if you choose, because of your extreme compassion for others, you choose to reincarnate, right, as is the Dalai Lama. The only reason we have bodhisattvas is because people who are totally enlightened have decided to be reincarnated. But be that true or false, I do have the belief that we're a warehouse full of thoughts, and our mind is impermanent. And I can go off into my theory of everything on another day, on another topic, but for now, getting back to the point, so I embraced compassion. Yeah, and but I found that on a global level, it doesn't work. On a one-to-one level, I mean, it is really meaningful, but you multiply that 7 billion times, and you got problems. But having said that, let me go back to let's see, when would this be? About 2006, I would say. I'm going to have to start to bring in my I wish I could stop this. Is there a pause? Oh. I need to pause. I need to take